What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. I'm so glad that you guys are with me again this week. Before I get into anything, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, tag me in guys' socials, which are linked down below, and I would love to connect with you. So this week, I'm so excited about this topic because it's pretty near and dear to my heart. I'm going to be talking about athletes and why eating disorders are so prevalent in athletics. As a former athlete and as a former athlete with an eating disorder, I think it's just such a necessary topic to discuss. So buckle in, get comfy, get cozy, and let's have an amazing episode. Here we go. So I wanted to talk about athletes with eating disorders because it's so prevalent. Sometimes eating disorders are encouraged if you're in a performance-based sport that idealizes thinness. A coach could pressure an athlete to maintain their physique, to maintain their performance. One of the most powerful stories is that of Mary Cain. So check out her story right here.
I was the fastest girl in America.
Mary Cain, there are women here almost twice her age, being left in her wake.
I set many national records, and I was a straight A student. When I was 16, I got a call from Alberto Salazar at Nike. He was the world's most famous track coach, and he told me I was the most talented athlete he'd ever seen. During my freshman year in college, I moved out to train with him and his team full-time at Nike World Headquarters. It was a team of the fastest athletes in the world, and it was a dream come true. I joined Nike because I wanted to be the best female athlete ever. Instead, I was emotionally and physically abused by a system designed by Alberto and endorsed by Nike. This is what happened to me. When I first arrived, an all-male Nike staff became convinced that in order for me to get better, I had to become thinner and thinner and thinner. This Nike team was the top running program in the country. And yet we had no certified sports psychologist, there was no certified nutritionist. It was really just a bunch of people who were Alberto's friends. So when I went to anybody for help, they would always just tell me the same thing, and that was to listen to Alberto. Alberto was constantly trying to get me to lose weight. He created an arbitrary number of 114 pounds, and he would usually weigh me in front of my teammates and publicly shame me if I wasn't hitting weight. He wanted to give me birth control pills and diuretics to lose weight, the latter of which isn't allowed in track and field. I ran terrible during this time. It reached a point where I was on the starting line and I'd lost the race before I started, because in my head, all I was thinking of was not the time I was trying to hit, but the number on the scale I saw earlier that day.
A lot of people have these preconceived notions of what an athlete should look like. Most people assume that an athlete is muscular, they're thin, they are toned, and they just have a very low body fat composition. That's what people associate with an athlete. That's what people assume an athlete should look like. And obviously this athletic aesthetic varies by sport. And since I was a runner, I'm going to be kind of focusing on that runner aesthetic because, one, I think you guys all have this idea of what a runner looks like. The female runners are, they're pretty petite and they're pretty muscular. And as a young female runner, I was very impressionable. And I just wanted to look the part. I wanted to look like these fast women that I saw, and I was like, if I look like them, I'm gonna run like them. And I also heard that in running, lighter is faster. So I was like, well, I wanna get faster, so I gotta get lighter. I started to base my performances off of how small I felt. If I didn't perform well, I blamed it on gaining weight. And I remember after some bad meets, I would be like, well, it's because of this, this, and this I ate during the week, so I better not do that again, and I better restrict my food intake even more. My appearance and how small I looked became my top priority. It was how I looked and then how I performed. That's a pretty big difference. I was also praised for my body and the success that I was having, so I internalized that validating message, which only made me engage in my eating disorder behaviors more. Because of that validation and because I was a competitive runner, I was scared to get help. I was scared that my appearance would change too much and my performances would just tank. I could not risk that. To me, my identity was in my eating disorder. It was in the way I looked. It was in my competitive running. It was all these things tied into one mental health battle. Who would I be without that? What would people think of me? Would a new body make me less of a runner? These were all things that I questioned and prevented me from getting help. And it's just so hard to want to get help when you're praised for the way you look and people don't assume that you have an eating disorder. So if people think you look great and people don't ever comment on the struggles that you're facing, it's really, really hard to validate the struggles on your own and decide to get help. I went through that, and if it wasn't for my support system telling me that it was time to get help, I may not have. And I know that's a story for a lot of people. And it's hard to want to get help for an eating disorder when you're an athlete and are praised for your aesthetics. It's hard to lose a coping mechanism that you feel has given you so much. How could you live without it? And I really want to emphasize that I am not saying that an athlete who is small has an eating disorder. I'm not saying that at all. So that's not the message that is being promoted here today. There are a lot of athletes who are getting the necessary nutrients that they need and really taking good care of their bodies, and that's awesome for them. I just want to bring to light an issue that affects more athletes than most people know. I really just think that eating disorders need to be discussed. They need to be understood by all coaches, especially coaches of young girls who are in maybe a sport like running or gymnastics or dance, because those are where eating disorders really are quite prevalent. And I really think that there needs to be an emphasis on performance rather than physique. I think one of the biggest fears for an athlete is leaving the sport and gaining weight. I know that's a fear because I've been in many conversations where that is discussed. You know, people are like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna leave, and oh, can you look at my body? Like, geez Louise, what happened to me? I really let it go. I got lazy. No, you left your sport where you're not working out 5 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, of course your body's gonna change. Embrace the change, brother. This is a valid fear though, because if you're an athlete, and especially a collegiate athlete, a pro athlete, there's a lot of change that comes with leaving a sport that you have participated in for pretty much your whole life. And it became your life. And it's valid to feel that an athlete loses their athletic identity. Now they also look different. So that in and of itself is really, really scary. Their bodies change and so has their lifestyle. Having your body change, though, is a way of life. It is a sign of change and is something to recognize and validate. It can be scary, and it's necessary to reflect on your life and your values to see what's truly important to you. At least in the case of collegiate sports and collegiate athletes, I feel like it would be literally the most beneficial thing that could ever happen to a college campus is to have a psychology transition workshop for the athletes who are ending their sport. It'd be beneficial for them to have coping skills to cope with the changes that are about to ensue. Because leaving a sport is extremely challenging, no matter where you are on the motivation spectrum. Collegiate athletes should be able to reflect on their time there and have a way to come up with some strategies and values that they have in their lives so that it's not just all of a sudden I'm an athlete and now I'm a nobody. What the heck do I do? There's no in between. Like, there needs to be some coaching to help with that transition. A major part of my program was doing a lot of identity work and figuring out your values to figure out how to live your life outside of your eating disorder, also known as life worth living. Yeah! And we did a lot of work on identity and values because for so long, our eating disorder was our life, it was our identity, it was our values. For an athlete, their identity and values are in being an athlete. So giving them the necessary resources to come up with a new identity and do a little bit of soul searching at the end of their careers would make them so much more well-equipped to handle life outside of the athletic field. So honestly, this was just an intro to kind of an athletic mental health awareness series that I'm going to do coming up. Next week, I really want to talk about the red S syndrome that is prevalent in female athletes. I also want to, in this series, introduce some value-driven techniques that have really helped me and I hope can help some of you and some athletes as well. So thank you. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm a mommy. Thank you for joining me here again this week. I hope you enjoyed this topic. If you have anything that you want to be discussed, or if you're a coach or an athlete and you have anything that you want to be discussed in this series, let me know. I would love to hear you guys' feedback, and please make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, tag me in your guys' socials, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!
Turning down all the city lights, take my hand and make this life. Whoa, whoa, whoa.